Everyone knew Nightreign was going to bring multiplayer to Elden Ring. That wasn't a surprise. What was surprising was how good it actually feels. Yes, it's clunky in spots, no duo, no in-game voice chat, but when you and your friends are deep in the loop, it's like FromSoftware reinvented what a Souls game can be. Now, we've always seen glimpses of multiplayer in these games, whether that be summons, invasions, messages, even some mods, but this is just a whole different beast. It's chaotic, it's unpredictable, it's insanely fun, and there's just something great about losing together, laughing, strategizing, and then diving right back in for another run. No! Oh!
What the fuck?
No way!
No way. Now, I've seen the mixed reviews, and I get it. You know, this isn't the solo, lore-heavy epic that some people wanted. However, I found myself grinding, getting addicted to the roguelike mechanics and social chaos that this game brings. And what's great is it doesn't feel like a DLC. It feels like something brand new that could mold the shape of the genre going forward. So the question isn't, did Nightreign deliver? It's, what does it mean when FromSoft takes this kind of risk and it pans out?
Oh my god! I'm so good! I'm so good!
Now, going into this game, we all had expectations and they were all over the place. Some hoped for a lore-heavy DLC that would tie up loose ends or expand the lands between. Others expected a boss rush, some crazy difficulty spike, or maybe even more of that classic single-player dread. But the moment FromSoft confirmed co-op and roguelike mechanics, it was pretty clear from the start that this wasn't just some other expansion. And I think that threw people off. Rightfully so. Souls games are kind of sacred for a lot of people, whether it be the solo loneliness, the pacing, or even the introspection. So when you introduce progression resets, group runs, and matchmaking, it challenges what the series has always stood for. Therefore, early reactions were split down the middle, some super excited, but also filled with doubt. Can multiplayer work in a FromSoft game without breaking the soul of it? Now, when this game first initially launched, it had, I think, mixed reviews, but by the time of writing this video, we're sitting at very positive, which is great because it means that most of the people are coming around to the idea. Also, FromSoft has already addressed the big problems, whether that be duo support or the solo experience, and enhanced bosses? Oh dear. Also, to FromSoft's credit, it doesn't feel like multiplayer was just bolted onto Elden Ring. It actually feels like its own unique experience. There's not really a fallback to that solo content that you're used to. You're dropped in a shared world where synergy and teamwork aren't necessarily an optional thing, it's required. So ultimately I came in cautious, but I also came in curious. And Nightreign gave me way more than I expected. I mean, the moment I loaded in for the first time, I could immediately feel the shift. There was no overwrought introduction. It was just a straight drop into chaos. I played my first game with 2 randoms with absolutely no idea what I was doing, no idea where to go, and I immediately got wiped by 2 random ads. So after that, I decided to hop on with friends so that we could actually communicate and formulate a strategy. And even though we were getting railed our first few runs and we looked like absolute noobs, I was having the time of my life. It felt very rough at first, yeah, but also incredibly raw, unpredictable, and just new. And what was great is the game didn't hold our hands. There was no gentle curve. Instead, they threw us into a game that expected communication, coordination, and just fast learning. And to be honest, that first hour might have been the most fun I've had in a long time. Getting wiped turned into strategy talks, new routes became debates. Do we push? Do we reset our run? And even in the quiet moments when your friend is in a 1v1 or they're trying to revive you and they barely scrape by, you can feel the tension. Also, something that kind of surprised me wasn't the challenge necessarily. I mean, I'm used to that with these types of games, but it was the emotional impact that felt a little bit different. Instead of that quiet, lonely dread that you get with a typical game like this, it felt like a dungeon crawler mixed with a survival game with your friends. And again, it doesn't just feel like a DLC, it feels like a new genre, but in the body of Elden Ring. And that first impression I got, it still stuck with me the entire way through. Now on paper, Nightreign's roguelike structure sounds pretty simple. You dive in, you collect progress, push forward, and survive. But in practice, it's absolute madness. I mean, beautiful, punishing madness. I mean, every run feels like a group project where one mistake snowballs into disaster. And mechanically, Nightreign pushes you to think different. Instead of thinking about perfection, it's more about adaptation. Therefore, all your builds, they evolve faster, and your coordination with your team, it gets tighter. And the enemy design is different. It's a little bit more reactive and more focused on disorienting groups than solo runs. I think there's just less predictability and more utter chaos. And what's interesting is it's not the hardest content that they've made. I think it's pretty obvious about that. But it's definitely the most dynamic and the most improvised. And again, you're not just surviving enemies by yourself anymore. You're surviving each other's dumb decisions, your reckless optimism, and bad timing. And honestly, that's where Nightreign shines the most. It lets you screw up, laugh, rage, and somehow you still feel like you made progress. It lets you feel the weight of the world around you, and you're not alone. You're with your friends, and the lore, it's not just read, it's lived. So not everyone's loving Nightreign, and honestly, I totally get it. If you scroll through Reddit or even YouTube, you'll see that there's a pretty clear divide. Some players are into the bold shift that they took, others just wanted that lore-heavy, solo-focused DLC. And I think another thing to mention is, does this feel like a cash grab? I won't lie, I'm a pretty big supporter of this game, but it does feel like that a little bit. The sudden multiplayer focus, the lack of pretty basic features like voice chat and duo support, again, it doesn't feel like the most polished game that FromSoft has ever delivered. But here's the honest truth. If this side project funds the next banger, I'm all for it. FromSoft has earned a lot of goodwill throughout the years. So if Nightreign bankrolls their next narrative masterpiece and I'm able to have some chaotic fun with my friends in the lands between, then I'll take the hit. It's not perfect. It's definitely not for everyone, but it doesn't have to be. So if there's anything I would leave you with, it's just to give it a fair shot. Sometimes experiments can look weird at launch, but they make sense later. At the end of the day, this game could have been a massive gimmick. Could have just been Elden Ring with co-op and stopped there, but it didn't. It took real risks and it worked. It's not just more bland content shoved in our face, it's a new identity. It rewires how we think about FromSoftware games entirely. What if a Souls game didn't have to be lonely? What if it was chaotic, loud, social, yet still punishing? Yeah, it's got some rough edges, but none of that stopped me from playing more than I expected, or from enjoying it more. Again, it's not the most polished Souls content, but it's the most alive. You're not just beating bosses, you're building memories alongside your best friends. So, does Elden Ring Nightreign exceed my expectations? Absolutely. Not because it's perfect by any means, but because of how different it is. Because it shows that FromSoft isn't scared of evolving their games. And it's also because it gave me something I honestly didn't know I wanted. A Souls game that I could share. So if you've been on the fence, I urge you to try it. Bring a friend, maybe two, and prepare to lose a lot. But you'll love every minute of it.